Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I'm back again before you. I hope all of you are fine. Today I'd like to welcome the students of honors fourth year. In my previous class, I discussed the summary of Pride and Prejudice from your course 19th century novel, and today I'm going to talk about the appropriateness of the title of this novel and the plot construction of Pride and Prejudice. So, dear students, usually the title of the book is given considering the main theme. From the title, one can easily understand what the author will dwell upon in his book. The very title, Pride and Prejudice, indicates what the novel is written about. The words Pride and Prejudice indicates prejudices are very important and significant in the characterization of the novel. The hero and the heroine of the novel embody these traits of human character. When Mr. Darcy was first introduced in the novel, she was declared to be the most proudest and disagreeable man in the world. All his actions may be traced to pride. Wickham, the negative character of this novel, Wickham explains this pride to Elizabeth as filial pride. As he belongs to the upper class society, he bears this pride of being superior to others. This cult of pride is inherited from he inherited from his father, who is now dead. This pride is also in the character of his sister Georgiana, and Wickham calls it brotherly pride, and he ironically tells that pride has often been his best friend. Darcy admits it and says that his pride consists in his being selfish and overbearing. He makes a confession to Elizabeth when he contemplates over his past actions that his father had a role in making him proud. In spite of being taught good principle, he was allowed and even encouraged by his father to be selfish and overbearing, to think meanly of all the rest of the world. Okay, Darcy's pride makes him turn down the proposal of dancing with Elizabeth made by Bingley. In a humiliating tone, he says, "She's not handsome enough to tempt me." This statement owns Elizabeth's sentiment and makes her prejudiced against Darcy. To Charlotte, she reveals that she has resolved to hate him onward. This prejudice of Elizabeth, against Darcy, further depends on when her makes confession of his implacability at Netherfield Park. I cannot, forget the follies and vices of others as soon as I ought, not their offences, against myself. My good opinion, once lost, is forever. So Darcy is not only proud but also prejudiced against all who are not at par with him in richness and social position. His social superiority, refinement, and wealth led to his general prejudice. That is why he is, as Elizabeth has made it clear later on, prejudiced against anything that does not fit to his social world. On the other hand, Elizabeth has her pride. Her pride consists of being perceptive and refined. At the same time, she is prejudiced against Darcy, but her prejudice does not stem from any moral purpose, but from her heart pride. Heart pride. It was her personal pride when Charlotte says that Darcy has a right to be proud. And then Elizabeth does not protest, but she says, "I could easily forgive his pride if he had not mortified mine." So she is both proud and prejudiced. But in course of time, they sacrifice their pride and prejudice as they become convinced of the hollowness of these vain sentiments. The vulgarity of Darcy's aunt, the Lady Catherine, Catherine de Bourgh, shocked him and taught him that refinement is not the only, it is a monopoly of the elite class people. This new vision or new learning led him to play a vital role in the Lydia Wickham marriage. Besides, Elizabeth's refusal to marry him opened his eyes that superiority was not everything in life. Thus, there is a new awakening in his heart, and she shakes off his pride and prejudice completely. And Elizabeth too gets a new understanding. The letter of Darcy helps her give up her pride and prejudice. Now she is ashamed to think how she has been blind, partial, and prejudiced, and absurd in judging Darcy. This new awakening of herself prompted her to reassess Darcy and recognize his talent and his good disposition. She even considered that Darcy would most suit her, so long pride and prejudice blinded them, and now these varieties have disappeared. Time is now ripe for them to get married. So, this important metamorphosis in the hero and heroine of the novel justifies this title, Pride and Prejudice. So now I'm going to talk about another topic, that is the plot construction of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Usually Austen's plots are complex. She did not simply draw 2 or 3 characters in isolation. She prefers a family, many friends and acquaintances, and she tried to make things difficult. The plot of Pride and Prejudice has precision and symmetry. There are no obtrusive characters, no digressive episodes, and each event, each slight incident, each conversation, each speech is indispensable part to the plot. The interdependence of the main plot and the subplot is complete, and the interplay between the characters and events is held in perfect unity. The main plot of the novel is Elizabeth Darcy courtship and marriage. Their pride and prejudice against each other constitute the main plot through various events. Darcy-Elizabeth relationship progresses in such a way that their marriage could be the only logical conclusion of their earlier misunderstandings. And now I'm going to mention the subplots of Pride and Prejudice, and that is for this I will show you some slides on subplots. So let's go for it. So dear students, look at the slide. Here I have written the subplots of this novel. In addition to the main Elizabeth Darcy plot, the novel has 3 subplots involving Jane and Bingley, Lydia Wickham, and Charlotte and Collins. Each of these is skillfully linked with the main plot and subplots and substantially contributes to it. Number 1 is, it is also Mr. Bingley that Darcy owes his presence at Netherfield, and the growing Jane Bingley affair brings Elizabeth also there, allowing Darcy to fall in love with her and conversely deepening her own prejudice against him. The Jane Bingley affair provides Darcy an opportunity to see the disadvantages of the Bennet family objectively, and it underlies his love for Elizabeth. Number 2, the second subplot is the Lydia Wickham affair. The Lydia Wickham affair is still more relevant. Wickham is in the early chapters pleasant, charming, and attentive to her. Her means Elizabeth to Elizabeth. Wickham contributes in deepening Elizabeth's prejudice against Darcy, and later when his duplicity is exposed, she gains a better perspective of Darcy's character. The Lydia Wickham elopement helps Darcy to act heroically and prove his love for Elizabeth. Thus, the Lydia Wickham subplot furthers the main plot of Elizabeth. Okay, the third one is the Charlotte Collins plot. The Charlotte Collins plot brings Elizabeth and Darcy together at Rosings. and leads to the climax of the novel. Later, because of Collins's gossip, Lady Catherine comes to Longbourn to persuade Elizabeth to refuse Darcy, and her reports of this to Darcy is what ultimately bring Darcy and Elizabeth together. Thus, every character of this novel is relevant to the plot, even the places are important. Netherfield creates a conflict, Hunsford solves the mental tangle of the heroine, and Pemberley reawakens the attitude of the heroine to the true picture of the man whom she has misunderstood. Now I'm going to talk about the thematic unity. The plot and subplots are thematically unified. The Charlotte Lucas Collins subplot is the example of a marriage based on economics and lacks in love and devotion. The Lydia Wickham marriage is based on physical charm. The Jane and Bingley marriage is based on sincere love but lacks in intellectual maturity. But Elizabeth Darcy marriage is based on emotion and intellectual understanding. Okay. So let's have a look at the symmetry of the plot. The symmetry of the plot is evident in the series of balancing incidents in the novel. The novel is divided into three parts. Number one, part 1 occurs largely at Longbourn and Netherfield Park. Part 2 is at Rosings. Part 3 is at Pemberley, then returns to Longbourn. So here the first and last part are balanced against each other. There are two arrivals of Bingley and Darcy at Netherfield Park at beginning and the other hand at the end, bringing fulfillment. Okay, so now I'm going to present the plot as compared to 5-act drama. Act 1, the exposition or introduction, it extends over the first 18 chapters and establishes all the major characters. Act 2 brings complication. It unfolds the arrival of Mr. Collins, his proposal to Elizabeth and her rejection of it, his marriage with Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth's growing intimacy with Wickham. Act 3, it presents the climax in Elizabeth's rejection of Darcy's proposal of marriage and later on her realization of her misunderstanding Darcy and Wickham. It presents, Act 4 presents the resolution of the conflict. This part there is a sudden meeting of Elizabeth and Darcy in the congenial environment at Pemberley. It marks the closeness of Elizabeth and Darcy towards each other. This part shows Lydia Wickham elopement and reveals Darcy's contribution in Lydia Wickham marriage. And the last one is Act 5. This is the final stage of the plot. Here all misunderstandings and all events move to a permanent settlement. So these are all about the appropriateness of the title and the plot construction of Pride and Prejudice. So dear students, this is all for today. Next class I will meet you with another topic. Until then, stay fine and Allah Hafiz.